What up, peeps? Casey here with another tier list video because these are fun to do. Today I'm officially outing myself as a fanfiction aficionado. I've been a longtime reader and writer of fanfiction since the early 2000s with a fanfiction.net account approaching legal age. Soon it will be old enough to vote and serve in the military, so needless to say, I'm an expert on the subject, and the tropes that exist within it, and romance in general. So let's get right down into it. First up, we've got a real doozy of one, ABO, which, if you didn't know, stands for
She's an alpha.
And you're an omega.
We can eat together.
But we can't, how together.
So, alpha, beta, omega, not really my thing. So this one's kind of related to furrydom, I guess, but that subsection of it I'm not that into, because you see those dynamics in animals in nature, but in humans or fictional characters, it leads to some uncomfortable power dynamics that I'm not a fan of. I understand the appeal of having characters with animalistic urges, say like Werewolf Man or Elias from the Ancient Magus Bride, like the other character in the relationship feeling that sense of danger, and then that whole, it can feel very spicy, very sexy, and that appeals to a lot of women, including myself. But I think that whole being a fan of the animalistic stuff is separate from this, and I'm not a fan. Just my opinion, man. Everything in this video is just my opinion. Just throwing it out there. So here's the classic one, Amnesia fic. Put that in C. Like, I'm okay with it. I feel like I haven't seen a lot of this lately when it used to be more popular. It feels like a very sitcom-y trope, like, oh my gosh, they've come down with amnesia. But when you see it in fanfiction more often than not, at least in ones I've read, they end up kind of angsty, where you've got the one character who still has their memories becoming introspective and lamenting the fact that their partner or crush or what have you, like, no longer knows them, so they feel the loss of that person as if they're gone, but they're still here. And so it can be a good setup for that kind of introspective writing and lead into angstier territory of, like, what's the reason for the memory loss? Is it medical related? Is it a brain tumor? So if you've got some stuff to work through, this could be a good setup, but I feel like I've seen it enough in the same ways over and over that it doesn't really do much for me anymore. Angst. Good old Angst. I'd say this one depends on execution, kinda. I like to suffer emotionally from media as much as the next person, but if the canon material is already angsty enough, then I'm not looking for it in fanfiction. Or if a show is lighthearted, I'm not looking for fanfiction to get that angst. So usually what I read, or what I want to read, is more focused on romance and lighthearted stuff, which is just a personal preference. Again, just my opinion, though there can be some good angst, so it's just not usually what I'm looking for. Arranged marriage. This one also isn't for me because I don't like two characters being forced together into a relationship. I like it to come naturally. Although my exception to this would be Ranma 1/2, where it sets up with Ranma and Akane are betrothed because their fathers really want them to get together to continue on with the family dojo, or so their families can come together and continue that legacy and all that. And so Ranma and Akane initially hate each other, but it's got more going on than just that. It's got a lot of fighting and comedy and all sorts of craziness. So if it's a setup like that, that can be fine, but that's the only one really I've seen like that. There's nothing quite like Ranma. But in general, arranged marriages, not my thing either. We're off to a kind of negative start, huh? Well, baby fic. I'm not really a fan of kids, but I can get behind a fictional couple's child, especially if it's my OTP, especially if it's a magical lesbian baby. It's always funny when they just, like, if it's in a universe that doesn't have magic or some kind of crazy technology, it's like, oh, here's our child that somehow has both of our genetic materials. Because we can all dream, can't we? That two women can make a child together. I think I heard that science is actually working on that, but we'll see. It's cute. It's a good time. Oh, here we go. S tier. Sharing a bed. Nothing is more classic and timeless and great each time than sharing a bed. Oh no, the hotel messed up our reservation. We were supposed to have 2 beds, but now we only have 1. Well, I guess I'm gonna begrudgingly sleep with you, person who I may or may not have romantic feelings and romantic tensions with. And I'm certainly not gonna snuggle you during the night or wake up cuddled up next to you and in your arms. No siree. Classic. Bang or die. This one also isn't for me. Again, I don't like characters being forced into intimacy. If I'm reading my favorite characters or my OTP banging it out, I'd rather it be genuine with no overlying threat of danger. That would just kind of, ruin it for me. I think a lot of them are also non-consensual, but then they kind of dodge that by being like, oh, well, these characters are actually, they were into each other the whole time, but still, I'd rather just have them come together naturally. Body swap. This is a good one. I like it. It seems that body swap can either be very awkward, very comedic, or very perverted. Or all 3. I like when it's very perverted. Coffee shop AU. Another tried and true. Yeah, I'm down for it. I'll read a good coffee shop AU. I mean, the setup's always the same. You know what you're getting into. Though, I don't rank this a little higher because I don't really drink coffee, so I'm not really into the coffee culture. And then there's the whole dynamic of having to deal in customer service, and I'm probably looking too much into that. But how many relationships sparked from a customer and a barista? But I guess it takes the fun out of it to think realistically. So, it's a good setup. I like it. I'll read them. Why not? College AU, I think, also got high school AU. Yeah, this one's also good. Plop them together. A lot of my favorite anime series have characters already in school, so I guess that would fit for some series like, I don't know, I'm not that into it recently, but like Attack on Titan. Take them out of their terrible world and put them in high school or college. Yeah, that's fine with me. It's just a different setting and a way to play around with those characters. Crack fic. I'll put in C for crack. Crack is whack, kids.
We don't do crack. We don't do that. Your crack is whack.
I guess it depends on execution. I mean, I've read some pretty funny stuff before. I feel like a good crack fic leaves you thinking, what the hell was that? And it was very memorable after you just read it. Or if it's a ship that nobody thought of, but it was pulled off really well. So those are always fun. It's like, oh, I didn't think about X and Y getting together, but I can get behind that. Crossover, not really my thing. I don't know what it is about it. Even if it's a crossover between two series I really like say someone crossed over Lucky Star and K-On! Say you've got both of those casts together, it's always hard for me to get invested, because if I'm reading a fic, I feel like just one series or another. It's also annoying when you go into a tag and you're searching a pairing and you see a bunch that have like 50 fandom tags, either because they're part of a collection or part of a huge multiverse. It's like, no, I don't want to mess with that. No, thank you, not really my thing. They're hard for me to get into. Sorry if you write crossover fics and feel passionate about them, but just not for me. Dark fic. Most of the time, not my thing, but I'll rank it a little higher because I end up reading a lot of them out of morbid curiosity, because they're usually pretty fucked up. It feels like a lot of them come from a place, I might just be assuming, but I feel a lot of them come from a place where the author is working through some serious shit, and I totally get that mindset of having your own character or a character you relate to, using them and projecting onto them and having them go through the same event or emotions you had, or just wanting to explore kind of really dark ideas or really violent, fucked up things. So if someone is kind of doing that therapeutically and they put it out there, I'm fine with it. I can keep on scrolling. I'm not going to stop and read a hate comment. I might read it and go, what the fuck? But I ain't going to judge most of the time. Sometimes it's a little silly, depending on the source material, but you do you. Major character death. No, please no. I can deal with some angst, I can deal with some dark, but if you've got my OTP there and one of them dies, that's too far, man. No way. No.
No! No! No!
Please don't kill my favorite character. I mean, you can. I just won't read it. Or warn me. Canon divergence. Sure, that's kind of a gray area definition. I mean, isn't most fanfiction canon divergence? But what sort of canon are we talking about here? Are we talking about canon relationships, events, sexualities, gender identities? I guess depending on the canon that's being diverted from the original. I guess I don't really feel strongly one way or another because it's a case-by-case basis. Enemies to lovers. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Some of my favorite examples of this would be Maya and Claudine from Review Starlight, or Akko and Diana from Little Witch Academia. And, of course, a big recent example is She-Ra. I haven't watched She-Ra, but it's all over my timeline, and I know what happens, and I vicariously enjoy I vicariously enjoy it, and the fan art I see. Character development at its finest. Established relationship, yeah, I'm for that. Most of the fun is certainly the journey there, but sometimes we don't need the setup if you want to have a nice one-shot, or have a domestic fluff stuff, or a porn without plot, like we've got right down here. If you want to have the characters already be dating and just tell a story about them, then that's all good too. Just get right down to it, or just have a little sentence like, oh, they've been dating for so long. It's like, yeah, if I already ship them, then I'm down for it. I don't need convincing. Fairy tale AU. Not my thing. I don't really care about fairy tales, and these really don't hold my interest, so sorry if you're big into fairy tale AUs. I know a lot of people are, but meh. Fake relationship. I'd either the fake relationship stories are either comedies or they're angsty, or I don't know. I don't really read a lot of these, so I'll put in C. Maybe I just haven't read enough of them, or enough that are good to make me more of a fan, but I'd rather have a couple I like actually be dating than fake dating, but it can be a good setup for the eventual realization of their feelings depending on the situations they get thrown into. So maybe I just need to be exposed to more of the trope. Fix-it fic. Again, this is kind of a gray area with canon divergence. It depends on what needs fixing. I'm gonna put it, I guess down the middle, or either B or C. We'll put in C for now because I'm not quite sure how I feel about it, because it depends on the canon and what quote-unquote needs fixing. Like, if I hate a series' canon that much, I'm not really going to engage with the fandom or fan works most of the time. Like, an example I could give of a series would be Darling in the Franxx. I have a lot of problems with that series, with its writing, and I think there's a lot to play around with the settings and the characters. Like, the characters are the main highlight of that show, and you could do a lot better things with them, but is that fixing them? Or another example of the fixing, like, is there a character that's been clearly coded as a lesbian, but she winds up with a dude, and that's what needs fixing? Or did someone unjustly die? It depends on what needs fixing. Because what if someone thinks they need to fix something that you consider fine? Maybe I'm thinking too deeply into this. Maybe I'm analyzing this tier list a little too closely. Fluff. Yes, S tier fluff. Give me fluff all day and night. It's my favorite thing to read, my favorite thing to write. I'm a slut for fluff. That's what I'm all about, baby. Yes! 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 Along those lines, friends to lovers, S tier. I feel like most of my OTPs can fall into this category because I love when two characters are already friends and they get along so well and they fit well romantically together, especially if they've already got some romantic tension or attraction between them, and then eventually they get together and it's great and it's yeah! Just a good basis for a relationship. Genfic. See, I feel like I don't read a lot of these because what I'm more interested in are the relationships, but I've written a couple of general things in the past, so I'm not entirely opposed to it. I guess if the description sparks my interest, like if it sounds funny or something, then I'm down for it. But I guess that would go under humor, but we'll get to that. Hurt comfort. Yeah, I'm a slut for this too. Especially if it's one character who's usually very closed off, like if she's always prim and proper and has it together, but then she has a breakdown in front of the other character and then has to be comforted. If it's the stronger one breaking down, you know, that's always spicy. That's a good setup to show that character's vulnerabilities and just exploring that, and then they see a side of them they haven't before, and that only brings them closer, and I'm getting a little too excited. Historical AU, also not really my thing. Maybe I just haven't read enough good stuff of it, but historical AUs or historical fiction just kinda bores me. Hard to keep my interest. Sorry. Huddle for warmth. Oh yeah. Not sure if I want to put this in A or S. It's not my favorite thing ever, but it's a good setup. It's another one of those classic ones, like, oh, we're trapped in a cabin in the middle of a snowstorm and the power's gone out, but we're gonna freeze if we don't keep warm, so here's one sleeping bag. We need to strip down because that's the way to be the warmest. What's another setup? Being stuck in a freezer. You know, nothing like getting some good snuggles and cuddles and yeah. Humor. Yeah, I like humor. Not sure whether to put it in B or A because good humor is it's hard to write and it's hard to find. I mean, I'll put it in A because I really appreciate well-written dialogue. Dialogue is one of my favorite things to write. So if you've got a romantic story with some good humor in it, that's always good. Like if it's paired with another genre, I like it. In vino veritas, or is it in vino? Drunken confession. This is spicy, and I like it. Like one character who's usually closed off, not that emotional. They get a little too tipsy and they lose their inhibitions and it just blurts out of their mouth. That's fun. Not so much a fan of drunken one-night stands because those are usually filled with regret and awkwardness afterwards, and it's like, okay, yeah, we get it. It was a mistake. We shouldn't have drank that much, and then bang. But drunken confessions? That's nice. The words that needed to come out finally came out. First kiss. Oh, I'm a sucker for the first kiss, so S. I think first kisses in general are kind of overblown and romanticized in society, but in my case, I read a lot of Fem/Slash and Yuri, and a lot of my favorite couples are full of subtext but will never be canon for whatever reason, so it just feels so satisfying to finally see or read their first kiss. And it's like when you go through a slow burn and they finally kiss, it's like, yes, that's what it's all about. Magic AU, sure. Not sure what kind of magic we're talking about here. Is it turning into animals magic? Sprouting wings magic? Harry Potter magic? I guess that covers a lot of broad categories, but I'd rather read a magic AU than a fairy tale or historical one, so take that as you will. Miscommunication. Ugh. That's always frustrating. Oh, unbelievably frustrating and plaguing too many shoujo anime, and it's especially frustrating if the miscommunication is the only thing that's impeding the progress of the relationship. It's like you just want to beat their heads in. Missing scenes. Yeah, sure. I'm all for that. I think if you're writing anything that's not post-canon, then fanfiction would end up being a missing scene, wouldn't it? Like what happened between episodes 5 and 6, or what happened after it faded to black. No, you can play around a lot with that. I'm for it. Mutual pining. Here we go, yeah. S tier. Give me that pining and have it be mutual, especially if they're longtime friends who have just been in love with each other for so long and they don't know it, and you just want them together, and then they finally get together and they have their first kiss and it's fluffy and they share a bed and they've been friends to lovers. That's what I'm all about. Have that pining, have it be mutual. It like hurts so good, you know. Sex pollen. I had to look up what this was, because I've probably read something like it before, but don't usually. It's not my thing. like with the bang or die trope, if characters are going to come together and have sex, I would rather it be real and genuine and not under the influence of magic potions or pollen or some other brainwashing or mind control thing. Just have it be genuine and consenting, please. Pregnancy fic, also not my thing. I'm fine if they've got the kid and they're cute, but I'm not interested in the details of the pregnancy, especially if it's impreg. A cis dude being pregnant, ain't talking trans dudes, cis dude, and then it's weird, freaky, uncomfortable, or if it's a cis woman. Any sort of pregnancy stuff, not interested. No. See you later. PWP, or porn without plot. Yeah, S tier. I mean, isn't that what we're here for most of the time? Like with a established relationship, sometimes we don't need the setup. Sometimes you just want to get right down to business.
Let's get down to business
To defeat the Huns. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Who needs plot when you've got well-written smut? Don't act like you don't agree. Royalty AU. I'm okay with this one too. It depends on the events of the story. A lot of it can feel kind of reused and trite, but if it's a princess and her handmaiden or something, or a princess and her knight, oh man, princess and her female knight, I should clarify. That's a fun one. So, yeah, I'm down for it. Slow burn. Aw yeah, baby. S tier. Slow burn is also some good suffering. Though, asterisk, I like slow burn if the story is mostly done or is already complete, because I'm impatient, and if I see a new fic that's posted that it's on their first chapter and the tag says slow burn, it's like, oh, here we go. It's gonna be a while. Especially if the updates are erratic. I mean, I'm extremely guilty of taking forever to update my stuff and leaving on cliffhangers, but, you know, if you've got just a long-ass story and that's not drug out or anything, it's just a good slow burn, it's like, Soulmate AU. Yeah, I'm pretty okay with this one. I don't know if I necessarily believe in the concept of soulmates, and I'm not quite sure how I feel about two people being paired together by some sort of magical force or whatever. Though I do like the red string of fate imagery. I'm, depending on the relationship, I'm kind of a sucker for that, and I do like if one character says that the other character is their soulmate. So yeah, I'm okay with this, and you could play around with some world building in that. Time loop. I haven't read a lot of stuff like this. I mean, I have two canon examples that I like that I don't want to say the names of because that's spoilery. I guess I'm fine with it. Love triangle. Not really my thing, because they get pretty frustrating, and then I always feel bad for the one who gets left out. Or what if the two that I want together aren't the ones that end up together? It's like someone's gonna lose out, whether it's a character I'm gonna feel bad for, or if I'm gonna feel bad. Basically, I don't want to feel bad, and along those lines of not wanting to feel bad, not into the unhappy endings or the unrequited loves.
No!
I'm here for some good conclusions. I want happy endings or bittersweet endings. I mean, I'm okay if in canon there's an unhappy ending, but then if I'm going to fan fiction, then I want the pain to be eased. I don't like to feel bad. I feel bad enough already a lot of the time. So I look to fiction to feel good. So, especially if it's my OTP, I don't want it unrequited. Okay? So here we go. Here's my chart for this particular list. So let's go straight to the other one, which is Fanfiction Tropes Romance Edition Tier List Maker. This one's got a bit of overlap with the other one, but a few different categories. So, alright. One Night Stand. I wouldn't say absolutely not, but I guess scraping bottom of the barrel, not really into it. If it's a pairing I really want to be together, it's disappointing if a one night stand would be their only encounter, unless that one night stand leads to a further relationship. Then I guess it wouldn't be a one night stand in that case. But no, most of the time, practice kissing. Oh yeah, this is a good one. This is a good one. This is a good setup. Yes, especially young lesbians kind of figuring out their sexualities. If one friend says to the other, it's like, oh, this doesn't mean anything because it's just practice, and then it turns into more than just practice. Like that's a good catalyst for some fun self-discoveries. Love triangle, like I said, not really into it. Sibling's best friend, guess it depends on the genders and the age gap. The only example I can think of this is in Cardcaptor Sakura, and obviously that doesn't work out for Sakura, and that's kind of uncomfortable, but it's not uncommon for a young girl to have a crush on an older dude. As long as nothing comes of it, it's relatively harmless. The funniest setup of this is that, like in Cardcaptor Sakura, if the one crushing ends up getting left out because it turns out the sibling's best friend is actually their boyfriend or girlfriend. So I guess I wouldn't say absolutely not, because it could be a good setup for either comedy or some angst. It's a dynamic I might do something with. Friends to lovers, like I said, kudos every time. I love it. I love it. Like I like enemies to lovers. I mean, I like friends to lovers more than enemies to lovers, but enemies to lovers does have that extra spice and that extra intensity to it, and more potential for the hate fucking. Which, if you're into that, then go for it. Domestic, yes. I love a good domestic fic. Probably due to some wish fulfillment on my part. The desire to have my own home. I mean, I don't necessarily need a wife. It could be just me and my cat as long as I have my own home, but a wife would be nice too, so just let me live it out vicariously. Have a bunch of animals. Have a nice garden. Yeah. Again, is this getting too personal? Fated mate, soulmate, soul bond. Like I said, we'll read. I already said what I wanted to say. This text is tiny. Isolated, trapped in a cave, desert island, or huddling for warmth. Oh, they've combined those two. So yeah, I like it. I'm down for it. If you're short on ideas on what kind of situation to put two characters into, just throw them in this. Like, oh, they get trapped in a freezer. I don't know. How they get on a desert island, you'd have to kind of weave a bit more story to make that believable in some cases. But yeah, it's classic for a reason. Fluff, heck yeah. Kudos every time. That's what I'm all about. And there's only one bed. Heck yes. Porn without plot. Slow burn, mutual pining. Yep. Here we go. Yep, this is what I'm all about. Yeah. A flower shop worker, tattoo artist, AU. I love it. I'm more of a fan of those occupations than reading about Baristas. I mean, no offense to baristas, I guess, but not that into coffee. I'm more into tattoo art. I guess I like flowers well enough. So I think those occupations are more interesting. But it's not really about the occupations, is it? Well, there's some elements, depending on how slice of life it is. But yeah, I like the setup. Let's go with it. Corporate AU, boss employee. I like this one a little less because of the possibility of uncomfortable power dynamics. And again, I might be thinking too realistically or too deeply into this, but it's workplace relationships can get messy, and I don't like the idea of a boss holding that authority over someone's head if they're going to be in a relationship. I mean, good if it works out, but, you know, I like it a little less. It depends. So. I mean, if you've got... Usually if it's Yuri, then, yeah, I'll definitely read it. Secret relationship. I guess will read. I used to be really into this for some reason, but not so much. Though I think, in my case, since read a lot of gay fiction, depending on the culture and the characters' families, like there's the question inevitably comes up, like, who are we going to tell? Are we keeping it a secret? Are we going to keep it on the down low? I guess, what's the reason for the secret? Why does it need to be a secret? And why is that part of it that interesting? Does it make it that interesting? I'm not entirely opposed. Will you zip me up? Ooh. Also spicy. What's that one poster meme I saw? It's like, to be a Victorian handmaiden and having to do the 500 buttons on Milady's dress. I mean, just good up close romantic tension. Let's just get it out of our system. I'll read it. I mean, I guess that reads as kind of a hate fucking, but maybe not entirely. I mean, if both parties are not under the influence of alcohol, potions, or pollen, then, it's all good to me. Fake dating. Yes, like I said, kind of middle of the road. Will read. Already touched on that. Secret identity. I mean, the category absolutely not sounds pretty harsh, but I don't like the idea of a secret identity because I don't like the idea of one party omitting, lying by omission or just straight up lying, because inevitably you're going to get to that point where the truth is going to come out, and it's that whole drama. It's like, why are you not who you said you were? Like, what's the reason for this? Are they an FBI agent? Are they under witness protection? Like, what's going on here? Wager or bet? Absolutely not. That's another one where eventually the truth will have to come out, and then it's going to be a big blow up, and it's not a good basis for a relationship if someone asks someone else out because they were like, I bet you can't ask that girl out, and then they start dating. Then it's like it taints the whole thing. It's not fun. Reformed rake. I didn't know that was what that was called, but I knew what the trope was. It's basically, according to allthetropes.fandom.com here, reformed rakes are what happens when the heroine of a romance story wants to have her shallow little cake and matrimonially eat it too, because of course former bad boys make the best husbands. A man being redeemed by a woman's love, that it's up to the woman to heal him from his criminal past, for instance, and it's just very regressive, very gross. No thanks, not into it.
No!
Nurse back to health. This depends, so I'm gonna put it in will read. If we're talking about good old, like, short little sick fic, like one character comes down with a cold and the other brings them soup or pudding, and or snuggles with them and takes care of them, that's fine. Or if they have a non-life-threatening injury, like they sprained or broke their ankle or something, and the other takes care of them, that's all good. If we're talking about, like, cancer, I'm not interested in reading that, because having experience with a chronically ill family member, it's a little too close to home. Not that I'm saying that if you have a spouse that becomes sick, you shouldn't take care of them. If I had a spouse that got sick, heaven forbid, I would take care of them. But I don't want to read it. Just an important distinction there. Seems like a lot of people lately can't differentiate the difference between reality and fiction. Or when actors play characters who do bad things, that does not mean the actor is a bad person or deserves any hate or death threats. Well, that's a whole other subject entirely. Bodyguard. This is a fun one. I want to see more of this. I'm going to put it in love. Because I'd like to play around with this myself. Because unlike the boss-employee dynamic, even though the bodyguard's kind of an employee, it's a bit different. It feels like a different dynamic and relationship. So say, the bodyguard's been assigned to this actress, and at first they don't know each other, and then just throughout spending a lot of time together they become friends, and then something more, and if the bodyguard has to protect their client, and that has that whole element, like if the bodyguard has if they're tough but actually a sweetie, or if they have a mysterious past, or there's a lot you can play around with, because these two characters are going to be around each other a lot, so it's a good setup. Friends with benefits. Sure, I'm with that. I mean, if it's my OTP, I would like them to be more than just friends, but if they start as friends with benefits and then become something more, then that's good too. But, if it's just some well-written smut between two attractive characters who happen to be friends, then who am I to stop them? Who am I to say no to that? Alrighty, so that concludes this one. Hope you enjoyed. Hope this enlightened you to my tastes on how basic and or trashy I am. Let me know your favorite tropes in the comments, or if there's any other scenarios that didn't get mentioned in these lists. And of course, if you made it this far into the video, I really appreciate it, and I'm quite flattered. If you like the sound of my voice and this kind of thing, stick around on my channel for content like this, talking about fandom analysis, anime, gaming. I'm just making stuff, throwing it out into the void, and see what sticks, because it's fun to do. I appreciate you. Have a great one. Stay safe out there, and peace out.